Welcome everybody to the Lavish Show. I'm your host, Dr. Shira Stallworth. I thank you for tuning in to today's show. On today's show, we have a very special guest. She's running for Attorney General for Mississippi. Her name is Greta Kemp Martin. I'm so excited that she's on the show today to tell our audience who she is, about her campaign, and most importantly, to get out to vote on November the 7th. So stay tuned, sit back and relax, and enjoy the Lavish Show. Because I'm lavish, not baggage, and I'm determined to have it. With nothing in my way, I'm going into space. Welcome everybody to the Lavish Show. I thank y'all for tuning in. I have my wonderful special guest who's running for Attorney General. Her name will be on the ballot November the 7th. She goes by the name of Greta Kemp Martin. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad that you're here on the beautiful Gulf Coast, Pascagoula, Mississippi. So I'm excited.
Yes, I love being on the coast. This is one of my favorite places in Mississippi.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here, and I want to get right into it. Who is Greta Kemp Martin?
Ooh, well, I am a lifelong Mississippian. I grew up in Tishomingo County, Mississippi, so a very, very long way from the Gulf Coast, the very northeast corner of our state.
Wow.
It's what we call hill country, so it's right at the foothills of the mountains, and so the highest point in Mississippi is in Tishomingo County.
Wow.
So my whole family lives there still. My mom's a retired nurse. My father is a police officer. He's been wearing the badge for over 40 years.
Wow.
And I went from Tishomingo County to the University of Mississippi. And then from there, I went and got my law degree at Mississippi College School of Law in Jackson.
Wow.
And after graduating law school, I got my bar license and was representing people for the last 13 years in courtrooms across the state, doing mostly private practice.
Okay.
Things like medical malpractice, civil rights cases. But about 6 years ago, I joined Disability Rights Mississippi.
Okay.
And that is your protection and advocacy agency for the state. They provide free advocacy and legal services for people, Mississippians with disabilities.
Right.
So I've been doing that for the last 6 years. I love my job. I love being able to represent people in a courtroom. But I want the opportunity to represent all Mississippians.
That's right. That's right. And so I can tell you this, at the meet and greet that we had about a week ago, the Mississippi Federation of Democratic Women, it was you that came, Mr. Ty Pickens. Y'all came down and represented. One thing I noticed about you, number one, you're compassionate. Number two, you're strong, you're stern, and I knew you mean business. I just knew that when I met you, this is the lady for the job, you know?
Yes.
And, you have a law degree,
Yes.
and you utilizes it
Yes.
well, and you are a people person. So I realized that when I met you for the first time, I was like, she is the one. So in this campaign, how's that been going right now for you, the campaign?
Whew, well, it's easy for me to say we're a week away from Election Day. As we sit here, and I've been doing this since I qualified February 1st.
Okay.
So it has been almost 10 months of nonstop campaigning, going across the state. We've been to almost all 82 counties.
Wow.
And I will tell you that I have never loved my state more
Yes.
than I do right now. It's been wonderful going into communities that I had never been into before.
That's right.
Meeting people I might have never otherwise had the opportunity to meet. going to festivals that I'd never
Yes.
heard of,
Yes,
eating food.
I seen you. I seen you. The
I mean,
fair, I seen you.
yes, I mean we have so many wonderful things here in Mississippi that many of us
Yes.
aren't even aware of, and I've had the really unique opportunity
Yes.
because of the campaign to go out and see all these wonderful things that Mississippi has to offer.
That's
and
right.
That's
That's right.
been an experience, win or lose, that I will just cherish
Yes.
forever.
And one thing I like, my mother is a registered nurse. She's been a nurse for over 30 some years. Okay. So I know if you're a daughter of a nurse,
Woo.
you're used to those late nights they come home,
Yes.
the compassion that they have for people. And like I said before, you have that compassion for people. And I love that about you. Let's talk a little bit about, you said that your father was in law enforcement.
My father is still in law enforcement.
Oh my gosh.
He is chief of police for the city of Tishomingo.
Really?
He has worn the badge for over 4 decades. And we're trying to get him to retire, but I don't know. He says once a police officer, always a police officer. It's hard for him to retire, but he's been a shining example for me of community service.
I was just gonna say
And he actually ran his own election this year. He was running for sheriff of Tishomingo County. He did not survive the primary.
Yeah.
But just seeing him get out there every day and give back to his community, on top of, like you said, having a mother who was a nurse for forever. It's just, I've always had that public service quality instilled in me. And community engagement. I've always been told you've got to get involved in your community.
Yes.
You have to make an effort. You can't sit by and watch your community if you don't want to. And you don't have an opinion at that point.
That's right.
If you don't get out there and get involved and
That's
vote.
it. That's it. And you have a servant's heart. You are a servant leader. And like I said, both your parents instilled that in you since you was a child.
Yes.
And a lot of times when we talk about politics and talk about politicians,
Yeah.
you don't see them. You don't see them active in the community. You don't hear their voice until it's election time.
That's right.
But that's not you,
No.
okay? That's not Greta Kemp Martin right here. I mean, you're active in the community. You're out there. And
Yes.
I've seen your whole political campaign, like following your political campaign, how you're out there in the public and doing things. Now you have an opponent that's on the ballot,
I do.
And she's been served for about 4 years, right? Her
As Attorney General
yes,
for 4 years.
Attorney General 4 years. And tell me a little bit about your platform that's different from her platform.
Well, my opponent, Lynn Fitch, has been the Attorney General for the past 4 years. Prior to that, she was our state treasurer for 8 years, I believe. And before that, she worked for the Mississippi Personnel Board.
Okay.
So, first and foremost, with all due respect, General Fitch has never been inside a courtroom.
Wow.
She's never advocated for people in front of judges, in front of juries, and been that voice for someone who's truly at one of the worst times in their life.
Right.
Usually my clients, they're fighting battles that they can't win by themselves.
That's right.
And so I have been that advocate for people for almost 13 years now. On top of that, I believe that her interests do not lie in Mississippi. I think we have seen for 4 years that she has paid more attention to what's going on outside of our state, getting involved in litigation that has nothing to do with our state, all for the name of her ambition. And look, when you are an elected official anywhere, you are the employee of the people.
That's right.
And so the people should really, really look at what Lynn Fitch has done for them in the last 4 years as Attorney General. And I think what they're going to find is that they need to fire her because she has not provided a service to Mississippi that they have asked her to provide by electing her.
That's right. And then, with these cases that are popping up, the things that happen in, I believe it in, is it Hines or Rankins County with the sheriffs and the cops and things like that?
Yes.
That's terrible. One thing, I'm in the NAACP. I'm their communication specialist. So you are heavily involved in grassroots.
Yes.
You're heavily involved in, domestic things that goes on in the community, just as that situation with those cops and the brutality that was used, civil rights. So, and I know that weighs a passion in your heart. Tell us a little bit about that, as being Attorney General, how you would step in, as you say, your opponent, we haven't even seen her. I haven't even seen her on the coast. I'm serious. So, if you're running for something, you want people to know who you are. But, what you're doing, you're stepping in a position that you can help people for real. So tell me, a little bit about how that's going with those cases and things.
Well, law enforcement is a distinct distinct passion of mine because not only my father, but both of my grandfathers were police officers. My uncle was a police officer. So law enforcement is heavy in my family history. And look, the best thing my father has ever told me is he said, there is nothing a good cop hates and is scared of more than a bad cop. Because anytime you have a bad cop out there committing the violence that we saw in Rankin County and the violations of conduct that we see far too often, it puts good police officers at risk.
It does.
Because it decreases public trust in law enforcement. It certainly does not give law enforcement a great picture in the community.
Right.
And so what we saw in Rankin County, I think I can say without hesitation, was one of the worst cases of police misconduct that I have seen happen in this state.
That's right, me too.
It was almost hard to read. And I, but we had to, because we had to know what happened to those young men.
Yeah.
And what sticks with me more than the graphic nature of that incident was one of the gentleman's mamas standing outside the AG's office begging Lynn Fitch to bring her son and his friend justice.
Wow.
And she was doing nothing. She wouldn't reply to the attorney. She wouldn't at all address it until the federal government came in.
Stepped in.
And brought charges. Then she stepped in. Not her, because you never saw her. You saw her deputies come in and bring state charges. And I'm sorry, delayed justice is not justice.
It's not justice.
And we all know, you sit around and wait for the federal government. That's not always the best idea. Waiting for the federal government to step in when your AG certainly had the authority to come in and do what she eventually did anyway. It's sad, and it makes me feel so not only horrible for the victims but for their families that stood outside her office just begging her.
Right.
And my heart breaks for them. And I certainly believe that the AG should have stepped in sooner.
That's right.
The Attorney General has the authority to investigate and ultimately determine whether there's liability in police misconduct and officer-involved shooting cases.
Okay.
I think today someone sent me a headline that she has reviewed 2 officer-involved shootings recently. So, I mean, these are things that she knows her office should do.
Right.
But I think there is, especially among Republican leadership, there's this fear that if they come out in any way against the law enforcement community, they look like they're not supportive of law enforcement. And that's just not, that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. It's not real,
I said it at Hobnob recently, and I'll say it again. You want to provide law enforcement with the support and training and resources they need so that they can come home to their family.
That's right.
But on the other side of that, you want to make sure that law enforcement is not the reason someone doesn't come home to theirs. And we have that happening far too often in this country, and unfortunately it's happening right here in Mississippi.
Wow. That's why we need to vote Greta Kemp Martin. You hear me? Because she's a voice for the people. And not only that, with Attorney General position, like she said, they're in the courtroom.
That's right.
They're stepping in into cases that is just, deplorable cases. In my, experience of watching everything that unfold with that case, that's what you're supposed to do as Attorney General.
That's right.
And, and I'm going to touch on this, and we're going to take a commercial break. We already know that we have a good candidate running for governor, Brandon Presley. We have a good candidate running, Mr. Todd Pickens for Secretary of State, and Mr. Larry Bradford for auditor. All those good candidates. I'm telling you those names because those are your picks right there. Mm-hmm. I want to touch on Brandon Presley, when he talks about, Tate Reeves, and talks about, the scandal that happened, with the money and everything. How do you feel about that?
Feel real bad about that.
I know how I feel because I was a single mother.
Yeah.
My children was in Head Start. We had SNAP benefits. We had all that. You know what I'm saying? So, I understand those needy families, and I do Toys for Tots now to help needy families.
Right.
So, that if that affected me in a way when I seen the news, what he did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Tate Reeves. So tell me how you feel about that. With your campaign, what are y'all doing?
Well, when I first heard about this outbreak of scandal. And first, before we start, I think I said it the other night in the meet and greet, I do want to take, and not that you said it, I want to take the welfare scandal out of people's vernacular.
Right.
Because what we're dealing with are monies that were provided by the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families.
That's right.
This is temporary assistance which provides communities, people in communities, with educational training, job training, childcare, transportation, you name it. And this is temporary assistance to help people get back on their feet. So I don't like people referring to it as the welfare scandal. And I get it, but it's, I like to educate while I'm on the trail.
It's a broader scale.
That's right. So when I learned about this, of course, I was just an attorney at the RMS, and my first thought was, where is our attorney general in this? And what I have since learned is she was nowhere in this case. As a matter of fact, she has allowed the governor, who we all now know is kind of intricately entangled in this, she has allowed him to call the shots. This is not his thing to be calling. I mean, especially if he's conflicted out.
That's right.
So we have an attorney general that has allowed a governor who's involved to call the shots by hiring private attorneys and private law firms at your additional dime to represent the state in this case. And we have seen delay. I mean, this case has been ongoing for about a year and a half, and we have just seen how they've delayed Brett Favre's deposition past election day. We're not getting any answers. And of course, this is a civil case. So no criminal charges have been filed to some of the top level people that are involved in this scandal. This is a civil case in hopes that we're going to claw back some of that money that was taken from the state. But what you got is a private law firm that's billing those hours. As long as they delay, they make more money. That's how they work. When we have a state's attorney, an attorney general with an office full of attorneys that she claims are great, that could be handling this, already paid by the state of Mississippi. So, it's been very confusing to me as an attorney why someone, the state, the people's lawyer, would not want to get in there and claw back this money for the people of Mississippi and then prosecute those criminally that are liable. And what we know, I mean, you just have to look at who's involved.
That's right.
It's Republican leaders. We got former Governor Phil Bryant, who's entangled. We've got Republican friends and donors like Brett Favre and Paul Lacoste. And look, I'm not saying their names, saying that they're guilty of anything. I'm just saying that they should be investigated and prosecuted if they are.
That's right.
And so we're not getting enough answers. And I'm sorry, but after 2 to 4 years of this mess, the people of Mississippi deserve answers.
They deserve answers. I mean, you summed that up real good. I love it. We're going to take a commercial break, but I want you to Google her, and she's going to give her information. But when we come back, I'm going to ask her another hot topic that y'all have asked me to ask her, and we're going to get into that, and then she's going to give you information. But like you said, I love what you said. I mean, people deserve better.
Yes.
Better representation.
Yes.
So with that said, we'll be right back.
My name is Greta Kemp Martin. I'm a lifelong Mississippian, born and raised in Tishomingo County. I truly believe that Mississippi's greatest asset are her citizens. And I believe that this state is made for better and it can do better. I do not believe there is a higher calling than going out and serving your community. Mississippians deserve a state leader who works for them. As your Attorney General, I'll be the people's lawyer. On November 7th, I ask for your vote. Let's return the AG's office back to the people of Mississippi.
Yes, who's running for Attorney General, Ms. Greta Kemp Martin. And the next hot topic that the audience has asked me to ask was about the abortion, the thing that happened. I know that the now recent Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, had a big say in that, by me being Democratic, by me being a preacher, by me being somebody that works with the youth, they'll say, because you are this, you stand for that. And because you are this, you're against that. I don't believe in killing any, child. And that's the image that they portray, that is that. But it's much more than that, because let me tell you, I have had miscarriages that they had to go inside of me and do certain things, to take care of the situation, or I would have been dead on the table.
Right.
you know, and that's a heartful and a hurtful thing to kind of put out in the public. But I know that I didn't want my child to die. I didn't want,
Right.
you
Of
know,
course you did.
things like that. So I'm an advocate for women. I have a women's organization called Creative Women Enterprise. I'm an advocate for our needs for women because I know how I felt on the table.
Yeah.
And to lose a child, it wasn't because I wanted to, you know, my health was deteriorating.
Yes. Right.
So you being here brings chills to me, you know, by you being here because I want to hear your voice on that.
Well, you know, you mentioned it. Lynn Fitch brought forth the Dobbs case, the Dobbs versus Jackson Women Health Organization, which overturned a 50-year precedent in Roe versus Wade, which provided the constitutional right for women to make decisions about their own body. Now, I certainly have my beliefs. I'm a very vocal pro-choice candidate, but I also believe that you can have a differing opinion on and still be anti-Dobbs. And this is why. Dobbs sets a very scary precedent in healthcare decision making. It goes far beyond abortion. I'm not out here trying to change anybody's mind about abortion because you're not going to change my mind, right? We're all very set in our beliefs about things that we have seen to be controversial.
Right.
But what Dobbs does, and this is coming from my legal brain here, Dobbs opens a scary door that puts at risk any medical decision making that any politician or government official can deem controversial. Now, let's think about that. What has been controversial in the last couple of years? Vaccines.
Yeah.
I mean, vaccines were controversial at one point.
It was.
We've seen over the last few months that we have a governor and an attorney general that believes birth control is controversial. You know, in some states, fertility treatments have been deemed controversial. And so, like you said, in the state, in the situation of miscarriage, it is technically an abortion that helps you get through that process.
Exactly.
So it's just, the problem is it opens a door to a slippery slope that allows the government to reach into medical decision making. And my opponent has even said that she wants to track medical records across state lines when women go out of Mississippi to get the care that they cannot get right here. And of course, she frames that as abortion care, but we know that could mean anything else. And look, that's not something I made up. That's in black and white. That's a letter that anybody can Google and read exactly what she put.
Right.
And so my problem is, I don't care what you believe about abortion. I mean, I just don't. But what you have to look at is the bigger picture.
Right.
And the fact that this case, this Dobbs case, it deals with more than abortion. And immediately after it happened, there was polling done in Mississippi that showed over 50% of Mississippians believe that Dobbs goes too far.
Yes.
And it does. And so, you know, and what triggered immediately when Roe fell, Mississippi's law, was a total abortion ban with only two exceptions. Two exceptions that are very broadly defined. And the worst example of this, and there are plenty, the worst example was the child in Clarksdale that was featured in Time magazine a few months ago, that was raped at 12 years old, didn't know the signs of pregnancy, didn't know that anything had happened, didn't let her mom know this incident had happened, and then when she finally went to the doctor, they discovered she was pregnant.
Wow.
Now, the OBGYN knew that she probably fit within Mississippi's rape exception, but there's no clear definition of how to trigger that exception. Does there need to be a police report? Does somebody need to be in custody? Does somebody need to be charged? And so because of that confusion, the OB did not even really know how to advise. And let's say that she had advised, okay, Mom, I think that you need to take this child who is 12 years old, whose body is not ready for this, to get an abortion. There's no doctor in Mississippi that will perform those right now because everyone's so scared of being criminalized and penalized.
Wow.
So the closest place from Clarksdale, Mississippi to get an abortion for that child would have been Chicago, Illinois.
Jesus.
You're asking a single mother who probably works, a full-time job, maybe even more than one job, to get her child, her scared child who just experienced a significant trauma, up to Chicago to get the care that she needs.
Wow.
And it just, I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind about abortion, but that story just tugs at my
That's
heart.
right.
I mean, I have a daughter that's 12.
Exactly.
And I can't imagine being put in that
situation. And just like with, children that are molested, or incest, and, you have these emergencies, pregnancies, what are they left to do?
And there's no exception for incest in Mississippi. It's just rape and life of the mother. And neither of those exceptions have a clear element or clear elements that you can trigger that. And so what we have found, and I've talked to numerous physicians, OBGYNs, ER doctors, nurses, who are like, it just put us all in a state of fear of being able to utilize those exceptions. And even if we could, we don't know where to tell our patients to go.
Wow.
Because, I mean, somebody on the table, if their life is at jeopardy because they're carrying a child that is not viable outside of their body,
right.
Doctors are paralyzed in fear on what to do. And I've been sent so many horrific cases, not just from around the state, but from around the country, where women were sent out to the parking lot to bleed out before the doctor felt comfortable saying that their life was at risk. And that should not be happening in 2023.
That's right. It should not be happening. It's a touchy situation and conversation.
It is.
And I know it makes people uncomfortable, but people need to know.
Yes. Yes.
Like Mississippi has the highest gun violence, rate, death rates, and things like that. We don't like talking about it. No. So I applaud you for talking about it, because the one that's in office now is not talking about it like she needs to talk about it. We need to get face-to-face, one-on-one with our community and with our young people.
Well, and I think I said this at our meet and greet, and I've said it everywhere I go. I kind of end my stump speech with it is we have to be having uncomfortable conversations.
That's exactly right.
We have to have conversations with people that don't agree with us.
Yes.
We have to have conversations with people who want to push back. And look, I get it. I know that not everybody wants to get on a bully pulpit and be a candidate, and I get that. But having conversations just with the people in your communities about things that are uncomfortable, about candidates that you support that maybe you don't think they support, it's important. It's what fuels our democracy.
That's right.
And when we start having these uncomfortable conversations, I think we're going to see a shift in the power dominance that we have seen here in the state.
We need it. Okay, so just we're going to take a break, y'all. One more break, because I want to play, some of your stuff that you got going online and things like that. Let our audience see who you are. And we come back, we're going to tell Ms. Greta Kemp to just lay it out for us, or ask her to lay it out for us, why should we vote for her and what's important to her right now, to the audience. So stay tuned.
My name is Greta Kemp Martin. I'm a lifelong Mississippian, born and raised in Tishomingo County. I truly believe that Mississippi's greatest asset are her citizens. And I believe that this state is made for better and it can do better. I do not believe there is a higher calling than going out and serving your community. Mississippians deserve a state leader who works for them. As your Attorney General, I'll be the people's lawyer. On November 7th, I ask for your vote. Let's return the AG's office back to the people of Mississippi.
Welcome back, everybody. We have Ms. Greta Kemp Martin here running for Attorney General. Now, she's going to have the final say for our audience, because she's going to let you know how to get in contact with her. But I want her now just to express, what's important to her about this campaign and what she wants you to know about getting out to vote.
Yes.
So take it away, Ms.
Okay. Well, I certainly want everyone to be sure they mark their calendars for November 7th. Your polls are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yes.
I cannot stress to you how much this election means. We have, you mentioned Brandon Presley, you mentioned Ty Pinkins, and Larry Bradford. We have an ag commissioner candidate, Brad Bradford, who's an actual farmer.
Oh,
with
wow.
With a farming degree that's amazing.
Yes.
And so we have a slate of candidates that are truly ready to roll up their sleeves and get ready to work for the people of Mississippi.
Yes.
Because you've got candidates who have been doing nothing but working.
That's right.
And they've been advocating, and they've been trying to make Mississippi a better place and pushing the state forward. And now they want to do it in their respective offices.
Yes.
And of course, I'm running for Attorney General. I'm running to unseat Lynn Fitch, who's been our Attorney General for the last 4 years. And I did that. I jumped in this race because Mississippi deserves better.
We do.
We deserve leaders that want to work for this state.
That's right.
Not against the state.
That's right.
And, from everything to fully funding education, to expanding Medicaid, to making sure that the people of Mississippi are represented, we have to put people in office that want to do the work. They're not there for donor checks.
Yes.
They're not there for the next level, their ambition. They're not there to impress an unseated president.
Yes.
I mean, they're there for the people of Mississippi.
That's right.
And look, I've lived here my whole life. My family is rooted here. My husband Drew and I live in Jackson with our children, and I would love to have a state that my children want to stay.
That's right.
And a state that is thriving.
That's right.
And that we draw people in. We don't drain them out of our state.
Wow.
And so, truly, that's why I got in this race, because number one, people deserve an option. People deserve an option on the ballot, and they deserve a good option.
A good option.
Someone with a plan, not just someone out attacking their opponent. I have laid out a plan on all my social medias that I'll tell you about in a minute.
Yeah.
It's called the Roadmap to Restoring Public Integrity. It's got about 9 different areas on my platform that we believe should have immediate focus when we are elected. And so my team took, when I qualified, I sat down with a journal and I just started writing my ideas and my plans. I got like 20 pages of thoughts, and my team was like, wait, how are we going to turn this into a platform? But they did a great job, and they really captured my voice and my ideas, and I cannot wait to start that roadmap, start those plans for the people of Mississippi.
Yes.
But people can find that plan. I mean, we're on all the socials. We're on the Facebook. We're on the TikTok. We're on the Instagram.
Oh, good.
My 16-year-old stepson told me that I had to get on TikTok.
Yes.
And so we did, and so we got videos on there talking about our roadmap. We have a lot of my speeches and a lot of my public appearances on there, and just to educate the voters on who I am, because I want people to know who they're voting for and who's asking for their vote. So, and of course, we have our website, gretaforag.com, for people to sign up to donate or to get a yard sign in the last few days or to volunteer in the last few days. But we are certainly out there, and our information is available for folks.
Wow, excellent. Now, where are you going next after this? Like, what's coming up next before Election Day, November the 7th?
Yes, so we will, of course, be in Jackson tomorrow, rooting Brandon Presley on during the debate.
Okay.
We are very excited that at least one candidate is getting a debate.
Okay. About time, though, right?
Yes, we have asked Lynn Fitch for a debate numerous times and gotten no. And of course, many other candidates have as well. But we are very excited for that. We believe Brandon is I think Brandon likes to say clean as clock. I think that's what he says.
Yes.
But we are going to go do that. And then, of course, we have a few more rallies. And we will be at Mississippi State on Saturday for a tailgate. And we're excited. I'm an Ole Miss girl, but this will be my first time tailgating in the Junction.
Wow!
But we have gone to homecomings at most of our HBCUs. We've been to USM, and that's been a really fun part. Is going around and seeing everybody's college football atmosphere.
Yes, that's me. Southern Miss to the top.
There you go. And so, of course, that'll lead up to Election week.
Yes.
And we will be having a joint watch party with our Secretary of State candidate, Ty Pinkins.
Okay.
At Urban Foxes in Jackson the night of election.
Okay.
And it starts at 6:30, and after the polls close, we would love to welcome people. And Ty and I have become very close over the last few months.
What's up, Ty?
Ty's the man. I'm telling y'all, he's been my campaign bestie, and so we're going to ride out the results together.
Oh, that's awesome! That's awesome. I love it. I just love it, and I thank you so much, you and your campaign manager, Mr. Will, for coming and just coming on the coast. Just means a lot, to voters like me and to voters that will see this, this show. It's something that's personable when you can be like hands-on in the community and come down. I'm just very thankful that you're here, and you know what, I just love your energy. I love who you are as a person, and keep fighting for the people. You are an attorney, and you have so many accolades. Like when I was reading about you, I was like, oh my gosh, she's the real deal, so y'all just get out and vote November the 7th for these great candidates, especially Greta Kemp Martin. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to the Lavish Show, and thank you so much, Greta.
Thank you for having me.
All right, y'all. From my block to your block, we are here to stay. Jesus all day, every day we pray for a change to come. He's the only way. To escape the pains of yesterday. From my block to your block, we are here to stay. Jesus all day, every day we pray for a change to come. He's the only way. To escape the pains of yesterday. As I look out of my window, see babies on the corner selling their dope, trying to make another donor out of a man being deprived of a need. Could only be self-expressed when he followed his needs. Give thanks to the Father who all blessed flow. Stop murdering your brother who buys your dope. Let's give him a helping hand and fix his need from society. Butcher his mind as they please. Word up to all the knowledge learned on the street, but it doesn't give peace to the prostitute and need pimp. We keep it pimping when we chase paper trail. Life is good until everything else fail. Message, the real message is to follow Yeshua. Give him your life and he